I'm Batman. Okay, today's topic is going to be about soldering. And I'm actually lumping this in with budget tips as well, because in the long run, it actually can save you some money. And by that I mean is that it's going to save you from having to buy additional adapters and connectors and things. It will also save you from buying any additional components that you might need. For example, let's say you're working on your plane or helicopter or whatever, and you cut one of the wires, cut one of the wires in two. You can actually use your soldering skills to repair that, rather than having to go out and buy a new component with that wire or buy a whole new wire. So you can actually fix things on the fly, basically. It's especially handy too in terms of standardization. And by standardization, what I mean is standardizing your connectors and for your batteries and so forth. It seems like that a lot of the manufacturers don't want to use the same type of battery connector. Horizon Hobby uses this type of battery connector. Hobby King uses this kind of connector. Andromeda uses this kind of connector. All kinds of different manufacturers have different types of connectors. And it makes it an absolute nightmare, because you have to, if you wanted to, you can go out and buy all the additional adapters and things like that to make your batteries work with those RC things. And so what you can do is standardize your whole collection to just those types of connectors, so you don't have to sit there and go out and buy 50 odd adapters to make everything work. So that's another benefit of soldering. So I'm just going to show you some of the basics of soldering and what you need to do it. We're just going to cover just the basics as far as how to solder, like say, a wire together. Battery connectors, those tend to vary a little bit in terms of soldering. So my advice to you is, if you're starting out new to this, get you some old junk wire and just play around with it, kind of get the idea and the feel for it, and how soldering actually how you can actually fix a break in a wire or something like that. And then eventually, once you get good enough, you can then branch out and do other things. Okay, now as far as what you need to actually do some soldering, first of all, you need, of course, your broken piece that you're going to try and repair. So I've got two wires here. I've already taken some wire strippers and cut it down to the actual bare wire is showing. So hopefully you guys can see that. I did that for both ends. These are actually just some wire I just cut up there to use just for demonstration purposes. So make sure and get some wire strippers and cut your ends to where you have half inch showing, enough for you to work with it. Next thing here is to have you a trusty soldering iron ready and powered up, heated up, ready to go. As far as soldering irons are concerned, I think for starting out, any basic 20, 30 watt soldering iron should do the trick. I do recommend down the road, if you're really going to get serious about this and you're going to try to practice and get better with the skill, I would recommend getting an actual soldering station that actually allows you to do temperature control. It gives you a little more flexibility and everything. And of course, the next big thing is solder. This here is a 6040 rosin core solder, 0.050 diameter. That's what I commonly use. It's plenty thick enough for me to work with. I have a hard time usually dealing with the smaller stuff, but that right there tends to work well for me and what I do. So, and a couple of last minute things here as well for soldering. Once you get your finished product, get some heat shrink tubing. This is a little assortment pack of heat shrink tubing that I picked up for about $10 or so. I think off Amazon. So pick up some heat shrink tubing, and to get your heat shrink tubing actually on there when it's finished, either a lighter, a torch, heat gun, things like that will do the trick too. Okay, so I've got both wires here together. I've got the ends stripped off so I can work with them about half inch or so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten the strands out on both ends here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mesh these together. So kind of all the strands just sort of interlock, so to speak. So about like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers, I'm going to twist these together so that it, I'm going to twist the wires together so it basically sort of locks it in place. So. And really, this just makes it easier for me to work with, so I have to sit here and hold both the wires as, best as I can together to solder them. This will actually hold them, so I can, just kind of move it around and it won't go anywhere. Okay. All right, now next, I'm going to go ahead and get my soldering iron over here, which has already been heated up and ready to go. Be extremely careful when dealing with the soldering iron. They do, of course, get very hot. This one is set to 450 degrees, as you see there, Celsius, which is about, I think, 840 degrees Fahrenheit. So I got my soldering iron right here, and I got my solder right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to mesh the two elements together, meaning the iron and the solder to the wire. And you're going to see the wire, or not the wire, but the solder begin to melt. When it begins to melt, then you can sort of work with it and use the iron to sort of smooth things out and then create a good bond. So here we go. You can kind of see the smoke there. Okay. And let's just allow that just a few moments there to cool. Sometimes I'll pick up the wire and just kind of blow on it to sort of cool it down. Okay. And since it's laying like this, of course, we're only getting like one side, so you need to repeat the process for any other sides as well. You can see the strands are still showing here on this side. So let me go ahead and we'll heat this side up. Yeah, and one thing you can kind of do is just to kind of, once you get it all soldered in place, just kind of give it a good look over. If it looks relatively shiny, then you know it's a good bond. And like I said, of course, it's going to get very hot, so you need to kind of, be careful and try to cool it down so it goes back to solid form again. So, and I think it turned out pretty good. Kind of what I was doing here, I do recommend, highly recommend, especially on a wire like this, is kind of making sure that you cover all sides of it if you have it laying flat like this. So make sure and get, all around it so that you get, all of it, covered in solder and having good contact so it doesn't, have a chance of breaking loose. I'm pulling pretty hard on this and it's not going anywhere. So we know we've got a good bond there. And yeah, it's pretty cool to the touch now. Okay. Now the next step, of course, is getting your heat shrink tubing on. Generally, when you're applying heat shrink tubing, you'll actually slide a piece of it on first to the wire because it has to go on. First. And this actually is kind of a little bit of a larger joint. You try to want to at least keep them as close to the diameter of the wire as possible. This one bubbled on me a little bit, but it's okay. That kind of stuff can happen. Just as long as your connection's good. So this piece will probably work better. A little bit larger there. There we go. Okay. So heat shrink tubing is in place. And like I said, either with a lighter, one of those, either with a lighter, one of those grill torches, or even like a heat gun would work. But I always use a lighter or a torch, and it works just fine. And what you want to do is not do a direct contact with the flame to the tubing, because that actually can melt it pretty good, and it could very well heat your solder back up to liquid form again. And you don't want that, of course, as it'll start breaking down and your wire will start coming loose. So you want to keep the flame, close enough to the tubing, but not actually too much touching it, or try to refrain from touching as much as possible to avoid those things. So do this, and you should notice it'll start to shrink down the tube around the wire. And you kind of flip around here so we can get all sides of it. And kind of the same thing. And oops. Okay. I think I got it. So, and there you go. There's your finishing parts to doing soldering. Again, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, comments, anything else, leave them in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.